Well, I went to a jumble sale at the weekend and I picked up this silver spoon, and you'll never believe I picked it up for 20 pence, which has got to be, I don't know, 25 cents. So next to nothing. So I thought I'd try and turn it into a pendant. Got on it, Coronation 1953. It's a bit dirty, so what I'm going to do first is give it a bit of a clean. I've got a silver polishing cloth here that I use silver, and it should clean up really. Look at that. Beautiful. And it shouldn't be hard to turn this into a nice pendant. I mean, nobody's going to want this spoon, I wouldn't have thought. And it's not worth anything other than scrap silver value, I should think. And you can buy lots of different things like this. I love going to car boot sales, jumble sales and things like that. You can find so many different things to make unique pieces of jewellery or upcycle into something that you want. You wouldn't think that was the same spoon, would you? That's lovely and clean. So what I'm going to do now is go over it with a little bit of alcohol. And the reason is this cloth may have left some residue on there that I don't want on it. And going over it with some alcohol will remove any residue, which could prevent the resin and other bits and pieces from sticking. Look, so that did get quite a lot off there, because you can see how black that has now become. I'll just go over it again, see if there's anything else that'll come off. Yeah, look, a little bit more is coming off. And we'll just give that a wipe over. It's beautiful now. How shiny is that now? So what we need to do is cut this bit down to be able to turn this more into a loop for a pendant. And I want it to loop from about here. So I'm going to cut it down. I'm going to cut it just before the 1953 because I can always cut it a little bit shorter, but I can't add it on once I cut it. Now I'm going to be using my Dremel for cutting this. But if you haven't got a Dremel, then you can use one of the little hacksaws or something similar. I'm going to be using these pieces, one of these pieces, because it cuts beautifully. There we go. So I just need to plug it in. Amazing how much difference it makes when you've got power. So I'm going to cut it just before there. And keep that, because you never know when you're going to use that again. Now that has left that a little bit sharp, and I don't want it to be sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth that down using my Dremel. Like I said, if you haven't got a Dremel, then you can always use wet and dry or something like that. And I'm going to use a little bit of water on this. And I've filed it down at an angle, so when I bend this back, it'll sit a little bit more flush. And there we go. Oh, that's lovely and smooth now. That is filed at an angle, look. So when I turn this over, it's going to be a little bit more flush. And all I'm going to use for this is my little pliers here. I want it to be about there. So I'm going to gently break that off. Well, that didn't go according to plan, because I've now broken that off, and I should have probably heated that up to soften that up. I'm not sure this is solid silver. I think it's probably silver plated. Well, I'm not going to give up on that. That is really annoyed me, but I'm not going to give up. So what I'm going to do now is carry on, but I'm going to file this bit so it's a bit nicer shape. So we've got a nicer shape now, and what I'm going to do is try and straighten without breaking this bit a little bit. Just bending it back a little bit more. There we are. So I've now got that shape. And I'm going to drill a hole in the centre of that. Again, using my Dremel. So there we go. I've got a hole drilled in the centre of that now. Right there, look. And that drilled really, really easily. And now what I'm going to do is sand this a little bit and roughen up the centre. But I want to leave a silver piece going all the way around. So I want to make sure that I don't do everything, sand everything there. So all I'm going to do now is scratch this through like this. And that's just to allow it to, the resin and everything else, to sit in here a little better and give it something to key on, or give the backing something to key on. There we go. So I've scratched that up. That'll really make a difference. I'm going to take my gilding glue and a little brush, and then I'm going to paint on here, trying to be as neat as I possibly can, going all the way around. You can tell I'm making this up as I go along, can't you? And then making sure I give that a really good paint on the inside where I've done that. There we go. And I'm going to let that dry. That should only take about 5 minutes. Heat it up with a hairdryer if you can't be bothered to wait. Well, that's lovely and dry now. And you can tell it's dry because it's all gone really clear on there. But it's very sticky, so don't touch it. Now what I'm going to be using is some blue chameleon flakes on here. And that will stick to that beautifully. And I'm using a brush and I'm burnishing them on to get the best result. I want to make sure it covers that whole area. And then what I'll do is I'll give that a quick burnish. There we go. We've got some nice blue chameleon flakes. As you can see, it's kind of doing different colours and different things depending on which way you move it. And that's made that really lovely shape. And now I need to put my resin in it. But I don't want this to move around while I'm putting my resin in it. So what I'm going to do is get a bit of blue tack like this. Push that onto my mat. And then get this on there and attached. There we go. That looks about right. Get some gloves and put my mask on. So I've got that done now. And what I'm going to be using is UV resin for this. I might as well use UV resin rather than epoxy resin because this is going to dry much quicker and actually a little bit harder. Now, if you're filling a whole spoon up with it, I would really suggest that you do it in layers. So I'm doing that bit there, and then I'm going to go over it in a minute with another layer. I'm using the high viscosity one to start with, just bursting any bubbles that might have come up. And then using my little tool here, quickly go around all the edges as well to make sure that they're nice and neat. I'm going to cure that up for 3 minutes. And that's lovely and cured. What I'm going to do now is put a charm in it. So I've got my little box of charms here. And I'm going to search them out. I've already chosen that one, I think. But I'm going to see if there's any others that I like just as much. The gin one could look quite good. But so I think it's without a doubt going to be that one. Oh, I don't know. I quite like the Pegasus as well. Actually, I'm going to go for the Pegasus one. Now, I don't want the loop on that, of course, because that's just going to cause me problems. So all I'm going to do is cut that loop off. There we go. And you'd never know it was there. Pop that in there. Now, I want this to stick on there before I don't want it to move around at all. So what I'm going to use is a tiny bit of 5-minute epoxy to stick this down with. We don't want to be using the UV resin at this point to try and stick this down, because if we do, what will happen is you won't be able to get underneath it to cure it up, and as a result it will move around when you want to use it. So if you use this 5-minute epoxy, it will cure in 5 minutes and cure clear as well. You won't need an awful lot, tiny bit, because the last thing you want it to do as well is burst out of the edges. And also, if we fill in this underneath part, there's less likely to get any bubbles trapped that will then stick out. I don't want it to be in the centre. I want it to be slightly off centre. Do with a little star or something to put at the top. Let's see if I got one. Well, I don't have a little star, but what I do have is a little bee, and I really like that. I'm going to pop that there. And this is why it's important to glue this down first, because if not, you will get it moving around a little bit too much once you put the rest of your resin on. So I'm going to leave that now to cure up, and then I'll show you how I'm going to finish it off. They're both dry now. They're not going anywhere. So I can now put my next layer of resin in. Now we can cure that up for another 3 minutes. That's all lovely and cured now, and I think that looks really, really pretty. All we need to do is pop a jump ring on it through that hole that we drilled earlier. Take the blue tack off, and now pop a cord or a chain on it. And then we've got a really nice pendant. Let's see what it looks like on and how it hangs. Well, I think that hangs really, really well, and actually it looks really nice. Do you think I've got enough dog hair on my jumper? No wonder it gets in my resin. Yeah, I think that's come out very, very well. And you wouldn't know it was a spoon. Completely unique, upcycled, and someone will be able to wear that and love it. I'm going to definitely be looking for more spoons and have it go at both ways of doing it. This way and where I bend it. But I think I'll heat the metal next time. That's all finished. I really like it. If you've enjoyed this, then check out my channel. I've got lots of different techniques and projects and things like that you can make. Boot that like button, hit that subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.